That time when a gut feeling helps with diagnostic uncertainty. Hello and welcome to this week's Urgent Bite, brought to you by the Royal New Zealand College of Urgent Care. My name is Guy Melrose, and today we're going to have a talk about dealing with diagnostic uncertainty and safety netting. I attach an article in the show notes from the European Journal of General Practice that is worth reading. They say that developing appropriate strategies to deal with diagnostic uncertainty is crucial, and go on to quote Buntnix et al., who suggested 4 strategies. These are the GP's gut feeling, using diagnostic algorithms, planning additional tests, and the use of safety netting. Roger Neighbour described safety netting as creating a contingency plan and implementing procedures to ensure that the strategy is effective and that the patient is safe in any foreseen or unforeseen eventualities. So the attached paper did a qualitative study consisting of semi-structured interviews with 37 GPs, and they concluded that GPs frequently use gut feeling and intuition when safety netting. Now, a great example of this is a story told by Professor Bruce Arroll from his time working in rural Canada in the 1980s. Bruce is a Professor of General Practice and Primary Care at Auckland University, Director of the Goodfellow Unit, and a practicing GP.
So I was working in the clinic one day, and this North American indigenous person came in. They were called Native Indians in those days, and she came into the clinic with 2 twins who were 18 months old, and she there was no transport coming in from the reservation she lived on, so she'd come on the train. So it was early afternoon, and these kids sort of had a bit of a cold, and they didn't look particularly sick. And while I was examining one of them, the kid vomited on me, and it's the only time in my career I've had somebody vomit on me. I can usually get out of the way. And I was going to explain to her what she should do, and she looked really exhausted with these kids, and I thought, I'll just pop this kid in the hospital overnight, give her a break, we'll look after the kid, and we'll send him home the next day. So anyway, sent the kid over to the hospital. Mum went off with the other kid, and the nurses phoned up and said, this kid's getting drowsier and drowsier. So I went over to the hospital and we did lumbar puncture, and he had a meningitis. And I just think how lucky I was to have admitted that kid to hospital rather than put him on the train going back to this reservation where he probably would have died, you know. And I call it the Arroll sign. So if a patient vomits on you, I would be very, very suspicious that there's something seriously wrong with him. I don't know how generalizable that is, but it certainly got me out of a tight spot, and I was enormously grateful. And the kid did very well as far as I could tell.
So the Arroll sign could quite literally be defined as a gut feeling, albeit involving the patient emptying their guts onto the doctor. I'm sure we can all recall our own occasions when something has not felt right about a situation, and that has prompted you to do a test or admit a patient. Professor Arroll's story also highlights the multiple factors that need to be considered when safety netting a consultation. In this case, distance from help, maternal exhaustion, and access to transport played a part in deciding to admit the child. With these factors accounted for, it was an instinctual feeling, triggered by the vomit, that tipped the balance in favour of admitting, and how right that proved to be. So we should not ignore our gut feelings when dealing with diagnostic uncertainty and in safety netting our consultations. Now, with Christmas fast approaching, the podcasts will be a little different over the holiday period. Starting next week, we will have the 12 Bites of Christmas, which will be 12 short Christmas-related podcasts. These will be released throughout the festive season and will be augmented by episode 5, which will be a little shorter, but will still be out on the last Friday of the month. Things will then get back to the normal format in January. Please email thoughts, suggestions and corrections to podcast@rnzcuc.org.nz, or head over to our Facebook page and leave a comment there. Please also share the podcast with your friends via social media. I look forward to seeing you all again next week, but for now, Thanks for listening.